Fox host Jeanine Pirro is really adamant that people who take out student loans or any kind of loan repay their debts. In fact, here she is on Wednesday's episode of The Five.
This asinine, I want to pay off student debt, is an insult to the senior citizens, to the people who pay taxes, to people who decide, do I want to buy meat this week or pay for my medicine? That's hogwash. You got so many jobs, you got a great economy, let them work and pay off their bills just the way all of us do. That's the end of it.
Just the way all of us do. Oh, yeah, it's so asinine. You got to pay off your loans. You got to pay them off. You know what? I love how she tries to pit people against each other, right? Because, look, there are people out there, and it's true, there are people out there deciding between food and medicine. Happens to be a lot of those people are also those who have student loans. Not all the same, right? But I'm pretty sure that there's quite a bit of overlap. And again, why do you think they have to make that choice, Jeanine? Why do you think they have to make the choice between food and medicine or rent and medicine? Oh, could it be how medication and healthcare are incredibly expensive for the average person? Do you ever talk about the need to maybe, I don't know, make medication and healthcare free at the point of service, like through Medicare? Now, of course, it's not entirely free. It's paid for through taxes, which, yes, would increase some taxes on the rich. Could they also talk about how Medicare is not able to negotiate drug prices with pharmaceutical companies and how that affects the price and keeps the price high, much higher compared to the same drugs for our neighbors, like in Canada or in Europe, where they actually pay a lot less than we do for the same prescription drugs made by these same companies. Do we ever talk about that? Do you ever talk about that, Jeanine Pirro? Do you ever talk about the need for Medicare for all? Do you ever talk about the need to take the greed out of pharmaceutical companies? Do we ever talk at all about taking the greed out of our corporations who are making record profits now? And this is on top of inflation that is hurting the average person even more? No? Do you ever talk about that? Of course not. Because those things would actually fix the problem. That would make that elderly person's life better. And not just them, but everybody else's life would be better too. Because guess what? We'd all have guaranteed health care and cheaper drugs. But of course they don't talk about that. And the reason is, of course, she might be required to pay a little bit higher in taxes to make this stuff happen. And to admit that her entire ideology of limited government is wrong. But now, again, I talked about the pitting two sides against each other, right? You're pitting elderly people against struggling students, when we should be looking out for both of them. We're able to look out for both of them. We're the wealthiest country in the world. But where do we spend our money? Bombing people. There's never too much money for the military that we can just fork over. I get that we're giving money to Ukraine. I get it. I understand it. Why is it so easy, though, for them to give money to Ukraine, but not to guarantee childcare? And by the way, not just Ukraine, right? But the defense budget in total, which continues to get raised every single year. More and more money going to the defense contractors who don't need it. Billions and billions of dollars, while regular people continue to struggle and suffer. And not a peep from Fox News. Not a goddamn peep from Jeanine Pirro. Never talks about it. By the way, she also said, meat and medication. Meat's actually kind of expensive right now. A lot of poor people actually eat a lot of rice, beans, legumes, things like that to survive. She doesn't even know. She doesn't understand the struggle at all. And of course, she wouldn't understand the struggle because she's incredibly wealthy. But understand, we fight, they pick our pockets. And by they, of course, I mean the congressman Fox News personalities, and of course, giant multinational corporations. Now, here's the irony. She talks a big game about paying her bills. I pay my bills. Why don't you? Well, that's funny because she doesn't pay her bills either. Turns out her 2006 U.S. Senate campaign owes $600,000 to 20 vendors as of 2019. We don't know if she ever paid them off. Now, so for those who didn't know where this came from, Jeanine Pirro actually ran for Senate in New York on the Republican ticket. Her campaign was such a failure that she dropped out before the primary, but she did run for Attorney General and won the Republican nomination, unopposed, however. So, okay, if she doesn't have to run against anybody, then she can win. But then went up against Andrew Cuomo and got crushed. Now, following her loss, she had attempted to dissolve her campaign. But in order to do that, you have to pay your debts. She did not. In fact, an FTC letter from 2019 stated that the failure to timely file a complete report may result in civil money penalties, an audit, or legal enforcement action. The civil money penalty calculation for the late report does not include a grace period and begins on the day following the due date for the report. She took on that debt, $600,000, and then some, to finance her career. Does that sound familiar? Oh, right. College students also take out debt to try to finance their career. Now, according to her logic, she should pay it back. I mean, she does make tons of money as a Fox News host, so why doesn't she pay it back? She gets lots and lots of money from being a Fox News host. I can't imagine she spends that much on booze. Can't be that expensive, right? I mean, pay it back. Come on, Jeanine, stop being a deadbeat. Pay back your loans. It's asinine that you take out all this money and you just don't pay it back. No, you just don't pay it back. You want what? You want somebody else to pay it back? Well, that would just be wrong, wouldn't it? According to you. So look, she's a terrible person. Like Greg Gutfeld, who promised to go to war to prevent student loan relief from happening. He would rather go to war than have somebody's debt canceled. That is about the only time that Greg Gutfeld said he would go to war for anything. And it's to ensure that kids that were told that they needed a degree to get a decent job when they were in high school and not end up in poverty for the next 30 years or so, all that so that, student loan servicers can make an extra buck off of them. And that's what it's really all about.